Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I wanted to share with you my journey with my dog Lily. She was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma back in last September, and it has been quite a journey. And I wanted to share my story today in the hopes that it might help someone else who has a dog with cancer, particularly this kind of cancer, and also possibly to get help from her and myself as well. So I'm just gonna dive right in and kind of tell you the story. Last June, I noticed that she was having trouble eating. I would go to feed her and she would hesitate, kind of turn her head when she was eating her food. And I thought that was kind of odd. And I continued to watch her for a while and see if it would go away or not, and it didn't. And then I noticed that she was having like a green discharge coming out of her nose, and I knew that that wasn't normal. So I called my vet and we told her what was going on, and we treated her for infection. We did 2 different antibiotics, and neither one of them were really working. And then we treated her for mites, thinking maybe that was it, and then that wasn't working. And that vet wanted me to go ahead and have her put under so that she could clean her teeth, because that's basically what she thought was causing it. And I was not in agreement, and I decided to seek out a second opinion. And the second opinion at first, agreed with me that she, wasn't thinking teeth right away. And we went ahead and we tried a medication. I think it was called Temporal P or D. I always get those confused. And it helps some, but it didn't completely take it away. So once again, she went back to her teeth as well, and I still wasn't in agreement with that. So I sought out a third opinion. And the third opinion, the vet agreed with me, and he said it wasn't her teeth, definitely wasn't her teeth, and examined her and everything. And after a thorough examination, he decided that we would try, or he had a whole list of things that we could try, and definitely agreed with me and thought that it was like a backward sneezing type of thing. So we went ahead and we tried one medication, and that didn't work. And then we ended up trying her on something called Serenia, which they usually use for dogs that have nausea and stuff. And they use it off label sometimes for this backward sneezing episode. And I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that, but you can Google it and see what it looks like. Also have a video of it on my blog as well, which I'll link in the comments. But anyways, it worked. And I thought, we were really onto something, and that was our answer. But unfortunately, the end of August, one day morning, I had gone to feed her and she just wouldn't eat at all. I knew it was really painful for her. And we took her out and doing our normal stuff that day, and things just got worse. And by that afternoon, I knew something was terribly wrong. She was shaking and everything. And so we took her to our emergency vet, and they couldn't even get her mouth open because it was so painful. So they convinced me to leave her and let them sedate her just so that they could get her mouth open and just get a good look inside. And I agreed hesitantly, but I agreed. I didn't know what else we could do. And a while later, came home, and a while later I got a phone call, and it was something I never thought I would hear, but that they had found a mass on her right tonsil. And my heart literally just sank. I couldn't even believe what I was hearing, especially because we had lost another dog earlier last year, actually it was a year ago in March, to melanoma on her tongue, which was totally unexpected. And unfortunately, she didn't live very long, and that was a complete shock. So to have another dog less than 4 months later have cancer as well, it just was devastating. And of course, the first thing I thought, was just the worst. Anybody would, I'm sure. But anyways, we went and picked her up, and she was just a mess, and we got her home and, got through the night and everything. And then they told me to contact the vet who I had been seeing, the one who put her on the Serenia, which I did. And of course, it was a weekend, so we had to wait till Monday. And when I did contact on Monday, of course, he wouldn't have anything else to do with her anymore and referred us to another specialty hospital, which I didn't want to go to. So I ended up going back to the one that we had taken her to over the weekend and saw a vet there that she had seen actually prior years and years ago for something else. And luckily they got us in pretty quickly, and he was actually able to see when he opened her mouth that day, the tumor. It was that visible, which made no sense to me because, I'd spent the entire summer going vet to vet to vet, and not one person had ever seen it. And I even questioned the vet, that we were seeing, and I said, you looked at her, you saw in her mouth that day. And he said, yeah, I did, and I didn't see anything. And, he said he thought that possibly it was from, the temporal P. It had a steroid in it. Maybe that was keeping it down or whatnot. But anyways, it was still a shock. So anyways, the vet I was seeing at the specialty clinic told me that we needed to do a biopsy and a CT scan and, figure out what kind of cancer it was. To which I hesitantly agreed because, we really didn't have any other options at that point. We needed to know what we were dealing with. So, the end of September, unfortunately, he couldn't do the biopsy himself because he was going out of town, and it was going to be a longer wait than I wanted. And so luckily, or unluckily, I'm not sure now, but we were able to get the oncologist to do it. And they got it done and everything, but when I went to pick her up, she was just a humongous mess. She was just bleeding all over the place. She was a mess. They didn't even clean her up. I couldn't even believe it. And I got her home, and she had basically got herself so upset that she gave herself, a colitis-induced attack. And so she was bleeding from both ends. It was a complete nightmare. It took me 2 days to get her to even eat again. But anyways, I finally got her back. And we had to wait, to hear what the biopsy showed. And about a week later, I heard from the oncologist, and it was not good news. It came back as squamous cell carcinoma of her right tonsil, and it did have some lymph node involvement. And, basically our options were, the standard radiation and chemo, which neither one of them I wanted to do. Radiation, in my opinion, was way too invasive, especially for the tumor where it was. And chemo, to me, when she had told me what, the percentages were and success rate and stuff, and I didn't like that option either. So my third option was something called piroxicam, which was something that we were going to use with our other dog, Sophie, but we never got it in time, and it does have cancer shrinking properties, and so that's the one I chose to go with. But at the same time, I started doing some research on my own, and what had happened was, because we chose not to use radiation or chemo, the oncologist and the vet at the specialty center really didn't want anything more to do with us, because I chose to not do those things and to go and look for other alternatives. So they basically blew us off, and I started looking for another vet. Finally found one that was willing to do both conventional and some holistic medicine at the same time, and helped me to come up with a bit of a protocol. And we started out with CBD. We did, like I said, the piroxicam, and then we did the CBD oil with and without THC. That was something that I had to do like a lot of research on. Well, actually find someone that was knowledgeable enough about it, because most vets won't even deal with CBD oil, let alone CBD with THC. But the THC is what I've now have found out is what actually helps to kill the cancer and to keep it from spreading. It was just a matter of finding the right dosage so that, she didn't get the high, which is associated with the THC. And thankfully, this vet was able to put me on the right track with that. She also was able to tell me about turkey tail mushroom. And then I had done some research on my own and found out about raw goat's milk and added that in. And so basically, we were doing piroxicam, CBD with and without THC, turkey tail mushrooms, piroxicam, and then I was using some colloidal silver just in her mouth just to help with the smell and keep it clean and things like that. And things were going well. We saw the vet again. In fact, Lily was doing better than she had ever done in a long, long, long time. I mean, She was eating, and I also had taken her off all kibble and had put her on Dr. Harvey's, and I think it's Paradigm, along with Farmer's Dog pork recipe. That did have more carbs in it than I wanted, but at that point I figured, she was eating it and she liked it, so, some potatoes weren't going to kill her. So anyways, she was doing really, really well. She was eating great. She was acting really great. She was barking again, something she had stopped doing. And things were just going real well. And we had the vet back for a recheck in November, right after Thanksgiving. And she could open her mouth and see the tumor. And she said it was stable from the last time she had seen it. We did blood work. Everything looked good. She had some elevated liver functions, but that wasn't abnormal because of the cancer. That was something she had actually had prior, and we actually added in something called denamarin, I believe, for that. And we got through Christmas, we got through New Year's. I mean, these were things I never thought we would see. And we ended up getting all the way till February. And she had come to give shots to our other dog. We had gotten another dog last year after Sophie passed, and she needed her regular checkup. So she came for that. In the meantime, I had her look at Lily, and she said the tumor was still stable. And that was just great news. I was so happy to hear that, and things were going well. And literally a week later, all out of the blue, she just started coughing. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. But, I tried to not get too upset about it. And then it just kind of got worse. And I was like, this isn't, I just knew something wasn't good. So, I called her and I told her what was going on. And she told me to, go ahead and give her the Serenity again and actually increase it. We tried that, and that wasn't working. And about a couple of days later, it was a Monday morning, and we woke up, and my husband had gone to go to work, and I heard her downstairs. She had gone down with him, and I heard her crying, and I knew something wasn't right. And I went down, and she was shaking uncontrollably. And I tried to give her some pain medicine, hoping I could just calm her down long enough until, it was later in the morning that I could get a hold of the vet. But it wasn't working, and so I guess I kind of panicked again, and her breath seemed labored to me, and she just couldn't stop coughing and gagging. So my daughter and I raced her over to the emergency vet again. And, they got her back there. And once they got her back there, of course, she stabilized. And then I felt really stupid. But, we were there. And so we had to wait to actually see a vet. And by the time the vet came in, she was a wreck because, this was the place that she had had such a bad experience with the biopsy and everything. But anyways, the vet was able to open her mouth, and she looked, and she said that, she thought the tumor was pressing on her trachea. And, once again, I was just devastated. And of course, she was of no help because she was just doom and gloom. And basically, she had her dead within 2 days. So, I said, is there any way possibly we could get an antibiotic? Because I thought, maybe she had an infection, because I knew that could happen. And she said, she agreed. Basically, I think she just wanted to get rid of us and get us out of there, because she never even came back. And I got the antibiotic, and, $140 later, we left. And by the time I had gotten home, my vet had texted back. I had texted her, and I had asked her if she could come, because I really wanted her to look at it, since she was the last one that had saw it, and she was the only one that could compare it. So she came, and she looked at it, and she said that what she had noticed the most, because it's really hard to let Lily to let anybody look at it. She fights that. But anyway, she could see enough of it to see that it had turned kind of a gray color. And she said, I was right to ask for the antibiotics, but she would have probably put her on a different one, but said to go ahead and give it a couple of days. And so we did, and it wasn't getting better. Or I didn't think it was getting much better. So I said, should we go ahead and try the other antibiotic? And she said yes. So we switched it. And that was a whole nother nightmare in itself, trying to get that antibiotic, because for some reason she felt it needed to be compounded. And that was a whole process of getting the right one. And then they didn't even give me enough of it. But anyways, they finally got it and was, giving it to her. And I didn't know if it was helping or it wasn't helping, but it was hard to say. We were kind of at the same point where she was coughing a lot more than she ever had been, and gagging and retching, and it sounded like a tracheal collapse. And So, I, joined a lot of groups for that and found out a lot of different information there. And um, and then basically I, found out about most people are using a narcotic cough syrup for that. And so I'd asked her if possibly could try that. And at that point, I could tell that she was kind of just getting done with us too, which is what happened with all the other vets prior. In fact, the ones I had seen the summer before, all of them blew us off. Even the one that I had for our other dog, which, I thought at the time was just great and wonderful. Even though she knew that Lily had been diagnosed with cancer, she has never contacted me again after I asked her to look at the records and, to let me know what she thought. Just gone, which is so disappointing. But anyways, I finally got the cough syrup after literally a week of back and forth. I don't know what was going on with her communication, but she finally agreed to let me try it. And because it had narcotic in it, she had to bring by a prescription, which, was nice of her to do on a weekend. But she literally just threw it in my mailbox and ran. And that was the end of her. And once again, I just couldn't believe it. Here we were again with no vet to help. So I set out again, at the beginning of March to find another vet to try and help us through this. And once again, it was literally just a complete nightmare. I have written about it on my blog in more detail, because if I tell you it all here, we can turn this into like an hour thing, and I'm sure nobody wants to listen for that long. But anyways, basically I ended up finding, after going through another whole list of people and basically just one dead end after another, I ended up finding a vet that was or is holistic and conventional, which is, again, what I want, which is very hard to find. And finally met with her, I guess, about 3 weeks ago now. We had a major winter storm, and that got postponed a couple of times. But one thing that stood out to me is when I called, and it was going to take almost 2 weeks to even get in for her to come and see her. I had asked if I could speak to her prior, and they said no, and that was a red flag to me right there. I didn't understand why a phone call before she came was so hard. But anyways, I went ahead and made the appointment. She finally came, and, she spent like 2 hours here with us, and, I told her everything that I had been through and how important it was for me to find a vet that, was willing to do both kinds of conventional and holistic together, but also to have good communication, and not to give up on her, because this dog is not done. She seemed to understand that. She seemed very agreeable to that. She seemed knowledgeable and compassionate. And she was here for like 2 hours. And she ended up finding that she had kind of had a very slight heart murmur that she said thought could have been the cause for the cough, actually, which was actually kind of encouraging, because that was something that was treatable. And ended up leaving here about 2 hours later and giving me a couple new supplements to try, and then was going to come up with a plan for us. And so I actually had a little bit of hope. But, I got the plan a couple of days later, but it was just so packed full of things. It was so overwhelming, that I just knew I wasn't going to throw all these things on her at once. There was just no way. I tried to, tell her my concerns about that. But unfortunately, once again, I was going back and forth through office people, was never actually able to connect with her. And I was just kind of trying to figure it out on my own once again, which is like the hardest thing, because I'm not a vet. But, what else are you going to do? So, I started adding things in slowly, and she seemed to be doing okay with the first couple of things she added. But then she wanted me to change the food and make my own. And that was, oh my God, what a pain. But I did it. And, Lily was eating it okay. But it basically was just, the ground turkey with actual fresh vegetables that I had to grind up so small just for her to be able to eat. She seemed to think fresh was better than raw, raw was better than the Dr. Harvey's, which is freeze dried. Personally, I don't think it's that big a difference. But anyways, there were other things on the list she wanted me to try, one of which was, I think it's artemisian and apocaps, and I don't know if anyone's heard of those, but those I was most concerned about. And, I kind of left those till the end and went on a search again for somebody that was more knowledgeable about these things. And, my biggest help has really been, thankfully, Google and the internet and Facebook groups. There are so many great groups out there and so many people that are way more knowledgeable about things than the vets that I've found. But anyways, I finally found a group on Yahoo who knew about the Artemisian, and have been in contact with them, and decided to go ahead and add in these apocaps, which is something that was devised by this doctor who wrote the Dog Cancer Survival Guide. I think his name is Damien Drexler, I believe. And I decided to start with those. I finally did hear back from the vet about my concerns with that, and she told me to just kind of start with half of a regular dose, which I was okay with that, because it's what I do with myself when I start any new medication. I always start slow and work my way up. But anyways, I did that and started them, I guess, was on the 28th of March. And we were doing pretty good for the first maybe week. And then I noticed she was starting to become hesitant to eat, which was not normal for her, because this dog has never eaten so well in her life since, last September. So anyways, once again, I was back to square one, or so that's how I felt. I felt we had just taken, to all these 2 steps forward and now 5 million steps back again, and we're back at the beginning. So I emailed her again and, texted, and I said, she's not eating right. Something's not right. And, this was like a serious concern. This wasn't I have a question. It's not a big deal. And literally 3 days went by and no response. So here I was again. And I can't even begin to tell you my frustration with that. I'm not expecting a vet to just drop everything and get right back to me in a second. But 3 days to have a serious question answered, I think it's just ridiculous, especially when I thought I was more than clear about what had happened. And she seemed to understand that, but obviously she didn't. So in the meantime, Lily was having the backward sneezing episodes again, and really, really bad this time. And I was trying to figure out, maybe if one of the supplements was causing it. But in the meantime, I was running low on the Serenia again. So I had to contact my other vet, the other vet prior, the one who had, we had started with in last September, to see about getting more. Getting her to put more on the prescription to, give me more refills, because we were out. And I just emailed her about it, and I just wanted to see if she would say anything about Lily, because she never ever checked on her after she dropped off the prescription for the cough, which I thought was really, really odd and super, super disappointing. Anyway, she did. She asked about her, and then she proceeded to tell me that she said she tried to text me. Well, I never got any text. She claimed that she had texted the wrong number. Well, if you texted the wrong number, then why didn't you try again? That's my question. So anyways, I told her what was going on, decided to give her another chance and see what her thoughts were. And once again, no response. It's been a week, and here we are again. So basically, I have had to play vet again, which I absolutely hate doing, but I don't really have any other choice at this point, because I think I have exhausted all of my options here in this town. We live here in Denver, Colorado. It's supposed to be the second best place in the United States to live, I heard this morning, and I can't find a vet to help me. Is that the saddest thing ever? So anyways, basically here I am back at square one. But the good news is she is doing better. I put her back on her old food. She's eating again, thankfully. The cough is better. We haven't had any backward sneezes in 5 days, which is great. And basically I've done this all on my own. I took the apocaps out because I thought of all the things that we had done that made the most sense of what possibly caused her to go back downhill as bad as she did. And seeing as she's better, I'm hoping that's what it was. I might revisit it again. If anybody knows anything more about apocaps, I would greatly appreciate it. Any kind of advice you can give me. As far as the Artemisian, I put her back on that yesterday, and I'm going to give that another chance to see if we can get that to work. Now, the other odd thing is this vet that prescribed the apocaps and the Artemisian told me to give this all to her at the same time. And I have since found out you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to alternate. You're supposed to do 5 days on with one, and then you go to the other one, do 5 days on that one. And thankfully I found that out through the Yahoo group. But you know, I think the reason why I've come here today to tell my story is because, you know, I know there has to be other people out there going through what I am. Hopefully not as bad. I mean, I know I can't, you know, I'm probably not the only one. But what I wanted to tell you guys, or anybody out there that's watching this and has a dog that was diagnosed with cancer, is there is hope. Do not give up. Do not let anyone tell you that there's nothing that can be done, because there are things that can be done. And I'm sorry for getting emotional, but it has been a long, long journey. And she's still here, though. I mean, that's the amazing thing. And tomorrow is her birthday, and she's going to be 13. And I know that that's not young, but it's not old either. I mean, you know, I was, you know, hoping that, you know, I would have her till 17 or 18, and who knows? You know, I might still have her for that long. You never know. Nobody knows what tomorrow's going to bring. But for now, you know, basically what we do is we take things one day at a time. And if anybody out there is going through something similar, please reach out to me. I am more than happy to try to help you and support you through this, because no animal or person, which, you know, I've gone through something similar for myself and my health. I never thought I'd go through this with an animal. Should never be given up on. No one should be given up on. And, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, people caring and people being kind to one another. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres says it all the time. Be kind to one another. It's not that difficult. It's just give a damn, you know? You know, like I said, I mean, this dog has more life to live. I mean, if you've seen her, you would never even know she has cancer most days. And so we will continue to walk this road and take it one day at a time. And hopefully I'll keep doing my research, and I'll keep looking for answers, and hopefully I'll find more people to help me through this journey. Hopefully someone watching this knows something more than I do and can help us. But like I said, the reason why I wanted to reach out today was because I just wanted to share my story and just let you know there is hope. So don't give up. And, you know, hopefully I can come back and I can update you guys on her story if anybody's interested. And feel free to reach out. And thanks so much for taking the time to listen to my story. I know it's long and, you know, there's so much to it. But just know there's hope.